Welcome to the OEMs, Blockers and Breakthroughs podcast, brought to you by Pitfalls. I am your host, Tanya Tran, Pitfalls Head of Marketing. With me is my co-host, Sam Burgess, CEO of Pitfalls. We're here to share real stories from real companies and real people to help OEMs overcome challenges and be amongst those most forward-thinking teams. So thank you, Tony, for agreeing to be the guest star on our podcast, episode number 13. So with me and Sam today, we've got Tony Byrne, an expert in aftersales and business consultant. So I'm not going to take the mic away from you, Tony. So can you introduce yourself to our audience, just so our OEM audience know who you are, your background, and what you're going to share with us today?
Certainly. Name's Tony Byrne. I've been in the automotive sector since I left school, so 38 years. I took my first management role when I was 24. So I've been dealing with management within the automotive sector for, again, many years. I've worked with, most recently, Lotus, and I've also worked with partners Audi, Porsche, Hyundai, Chrysler, Jeep, and that is from both an OEM importer level as well as running operations. So I've been at the coalface, as we say. I'm now currently running my own business, which is Auto Insight Solutions. And the idea behind the business is to look at the customer-centric side of the business with a emphasis on return on investment and trying to help fix the customer as well as fixing the car. So we're trying to tailor make solutions from warranty through to a customer journey, through to job card and business flow within the operation.
Tony and Powerful, you and us, we've had some history together. Our listeners would really like to know from Sam's perspective and Tony's perspective on like how we come to know each other, and I think the exciting projects that we used to work on together as well. So Sam, I'm gonna hand the mic over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Tanya. And good to have you on board, Tony, on the podcast. It's always great to talk to knowledgeable and experienced people, within the after-sales world, and just hearing your real-life stories. We were talking just before we started the podcast as to how there's no book in the world that tells you what happens in after-sales and through life support scenarios. So I'm sure we'll have a fun and enjoyable conversation. Yeah, we go back to Lotus was one of our first customers, actually, going back. And it was a work instructions project, and we do the work instructions for Lotus on 4 of their models, 5 of their models now, I think, including Electra. And it was a really good, really good project. It started off, it was funny, it was before Tony's time there, I think, or before we were engaging with Tony, and the guys were looking to video using GoPros to video all the repair and service manuals. They were about to literally start pressing record on filming a whole bunch of these, and we turned up and they saw that what they felt was a better solution. So it's been really good. Really good bunch, really good to work with them, and I've still got my Lotus flask at home that one of you guys gave to me. So it's cherished.
Good. As long as you're using it, that's good.
Yeah.
I missed out on that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was before you joined.
Yeah. I think the last time we visited the office with you, so when we met you, Tony, I think I was on the way down. I was like, I really wanted one of those Lotus cups or tumbler. And I went down and I completely forgot about it. I forgot to ask you as well. So I'm forever regretting.
I apologise.
So you've worked in automotive aftersales for nearly 4 decades. I think when I sent some questions over to you, I looked at your LinkedIn and it indicated about like 15, 20 years, but actually 4 decades since you left school. So that's an extensive history of like experience. What is that like? Can you tell us some experience, some stories and the challenges that you've been through and how you've overcome those?
Well, I mean, it makes me feel very old, thank you. As I said, left school at 16 with a City and Guilds in engineering. I was very lucky. I was able to go to college 1 day a week, as well as doing my normal academic studies. So I left school with an engineering, and I thought, I'll go into engineering. I spent about the first month cutting tubes of metal up and realised that this probably wasn't the way I wanted to go. And I went into an apprentice mechanic, worked my way up, diagnostic technician by the time I was 19. And then again, I was able to do another college course, which was the IMI Certificate of Management and the City and Guilds Certificate of Management. So I obtained that by the time I was around about 22. Worked with Caffeines, had a great regional director, taught me a lot, gave me my first opportunity, and ran various operations moving forward up until headhunted to do some consultancy work with a company called Automotive Advantage. We worked with Mercedes doing the 6-point plan, so we would go in and completely change the way the operation would run. We would put in team working, so we would remove workshop control and make it a straight line communication process. Very good return on investments, the CSI, because what the customer told the team leader told their technicians. So you cut out that Venturi bottleneck that can be workshop control sometimes. Other projects worked with was Hyundai, which we did a process improvement plan process with them. So that's a week. We would work with their dealers, work with Porsche on their customer journey, right the way through to the economic issue that was 2008. So I went back to running a dealership and then was headhunted to move to the Middle East. I helped set up the Audi dealer in Kuwait, the Audi dealer in Qatar. So that was a very interesting time, working on operations that were 130 bays in Kuwait was the final size, 8,000 square meters. Total, 12 meters underground. It was an immense and beautiful project to work on. Qatar again was a 50 bay workshop for the royal family in Qatar. So that was again really interesting and learned a lot. Then, due to issues with Volkswagen at the time and with the emissions scenario, I went back to Kuwait, where I worked with the Maserati and Ferrari dealership for a while, and then set up my own company, which was totally diverse and totally random, importing marble and tea and coffee into Kuwait, wow. Which I did for a couple of years until I got asked to come and join Lotus, which was an offer that I wanted to do. I always wanted to get to the OEM level. I'd got to the importer level. I now wanted to work at the head office. So I worked as their first regional after-sales manager for 2 years, working with the UK and Australia and various other countries around the world to improve their process. So we worked on the balanced scorecards, we worked on KPIs, and we worked on product and pricing just to try and improve things for the customer and the retailer. And then the last 3 years, it's been strategic projects. So, honoured to work with a team working on accessories. I had a team working on the body shop program. So that's global body shop standards. And I had a great liaison manager who would, talk to far-flung dealers to ensure that they had support if they didn't come under a region. So, yes, as you said, very diverse and, interesting.
That's great. I feel like your experience is so dealer, like specialized in the dealer kind of network management, which is a little bit different to Sam's experience and journey going into OEM, I think. So it'd be good to see how you both reflect on your journey to get into the OEM level. Because I feel like for Tony, for you, I think the similarities, you both started as kind of equipment mechanic type and then moving on to different directions, but then the destination was OEM and after sales and through life support. So Sam, what do you think about your experience being different to Tony? And Tony, what does your dealer intensive experience contribute to you moving into the OEM, especially automotive OEM brand as famous as Lotus?
I think for me, I come in from the user level. But going back to my days, I would have liaised with somebody like Tony in the regional place that I was in, the take my time in Africa, working for MAG and with the UN. I would have been managing large fleets to support whatever operations we were delivering at that particular time. So I would be then going back to the local centre of knowledge, the dealership, to manage spare parts, see what the availability was, getting specialist technicians in to manage and maintain the particular, whether it be vehicles or whether it be other assets. So I very much came from it from the end user perspective, and and that's really where I felt the pain for sure in when things don't go well. I was the guy on the other end of the spectrum, trying to make things work and trying to get on with my stuff. And that's really how I ended up getting into the OEMs, is coming in from that vast amount of end user experience that is gained. So I think we both come in from an operational perspective, just a slightly different nuance there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I wanted to go into the motor trade. 16, you're not quite sure what you're going to do, where you're going to end up. The first guy I ever worked with was 60 years of age, and I just thought, I don't want to be doing that when I'm 60. So I had to force myself to be academic. I had to force myself to look at different things and do things differently. Yeah, and it's being able to work my way through and finally getting to the OEM level. It's like poacher becoming the gamekeeper. So there's not many things that I probably haven't tried or done or failed at, maybe at some points, and triumphed at others, that I could then bring to Lotus. Things we worked on with the warranty team was the new warranty policies. As I said, the balance scorecards and the KPIs, the pricing. How do we align pricing that is correct for the customer to maintain a level that's right? So sometimes that helped, because I've been able to win people over and say, this is the reason why I think we should do it. And I think this will be the return on the investment. Many, many things I hope were successful. And some things, weren't as successful. But it's all a trial and error, and we're learning all the way through. I'm still learning now.
Yeah, I think that kind of puts you in a very unique position. So over like 4 decades of being that person that moves from the dealer, from the shop floor to the OEM level, and seeing kind of everything, how it was run and how to manage, and the mistakes and the errors that were made and how to fix those as well, kind of put you in a really unique position to be in a consultancy role and managing the projects for both dealer side and the OEM side. So tell us a bit more about TBA Consulting.
I've actually just changed the name of the company, so I apologise for that one. I hadn't actually updated you.
Oh, no problem.
It was a bit too vanity to call it Tony Byrne Automotive Consultancy. So I've been working with some people on it, and we've agreed that we are moving forward with Auto Insight Solutions. And the whole idea of that, it's, what we're trying to do is create solutions for people. We're trying to look into their businesses to find better ways of doing it. It's not always about completely radically changing the business, but it's just being a bit smarter in what we do. So as some others are joining the company, I felt it was better to move with Auto Insight Solutions. So we literally just launched our LinkedIn page yesterday. So it's the benefit that I have and some of the rest of the team have is, again, many years of experience within the sector, and being at the coalface, as you said earlier, having the commerciality. There's many good books out there that you can read about management and practices, but there is no substitute for actually feeling it, doing it, touching it. Managed by walkabout. You actually get in there and work shoulder to shoulder with the team. And that was one of the key parts that we did with Automotive Advantage many years ago, which was human behaviour. So we would behaviourally profile the staff so we could see, who would take the change easily, who might need further coaching, who may be slightly resistant to the upheaval that a change in operation may do. and then matching that right person, because every role has an environmental impact as well. So how the role's behavior is compared to the person doing the role, the closer they are together, then the easier they'll do, and the less fatigue and stress and that they'll feel in that. So, we're trying to look at things, as I said, insight, look into it, look at what's doing, change, tweak what's being done. It's not about radically changing. It's working with, the OEMs and the retailers to find their solution. And then using the behavioural side to ensure that the staff are then happy with what's going on.
So, speaking of which, from your 4 decades of experience and currently working as a consultant to OEMs and retailers, what are the most common mistakes that OEMs make in after sales and dealer network management? Could you share with us like top 5, for example, and some stories behind those?
We're going through, I'm not sure whether it's evolution or revolution at the moment within the industry, and the change of cars and the change of skill. And, I always said many years ago that eventually a technician will be more of a computer analyst than they will be as I was, a hands-on mechanic. And that's, we need to look at that. And what we seem to be missing at the moment is we're not listening to feedback from customers. The customers are telling us what they want, but we're more interested in fixing the car than we are about fixing the customer. And that's very 1980s, 1990s in its approach. So we need to look at different ways of doing it. So, OEMs need to listen to their customers. They are, our user, they are our best conduit for information, and they'll tell us when we're not doing it right. The other things that I find issues within dealerships is job card processes, signatures, customer write-ups, getting the proper authority, a correct way of upselling, EVHC being one of your products being, key to that, being able to converse with the customer. So that whole process of looking after the customer once we've got them on site is crucial to the business. As I alluded to earlier, I was involved with the Lotus warranty program. So warranty claiming from a dealer perspective, as well as an OEM. So from a dealer perspective, it can be very costly. A small mistake, as I said, in the job card process, the lack of a signature, the technician hasn't created, a correct write-up based on complaint cause correction. This is what the customer wanted, this is what I found, and this is what I did to fix the car. So there is risk, and I've seen some very hefty risks, financial penalties over the years. So warranty from a dealer point of view is crucial, and they need to make sure that they tighten down on that process. And also from an OEM point of view, the lack of a robust audit program, retailers can become complacent as well and become very slapdash in the approach if they feel that they're not being looked at in any way. And it's looking at that warranty submission stroke audit stroke whole claim process as a team. It's not the OEM trying to take money off the dealer for doing something wrong, and it's not about the dealer trying to capitalize on the warranty from the dealer. It's about, again, fixing the customer and fixing the car and getting paid for the right work at the right time. So it's a partnership process. I see it between the OEM and the retailer to work together to ensure that the customer's not impacted by a poor warranty process. Frontline training, service advisors, parts people. Again, it's about listening to the customer. It's about understanding what they need. It's about, again, taking that pain away from them. I had the philosophy that you wouldn't charge a customer something that you would do your neighbour for free. So if you go round and put your neighbour's wiper blades on his car, why do we charge, a customer for that? It's about building a relationship, and it's about building ultimately trust, and building that they look after me. They have my interests at heart, and they know what they're doing. And that's what we tend to forget sometimes. And it's more about the almighty pound. But sometimes we just have to do those little things that just the customer walks away, as a moment of truth, going, wow, I didn't expect that. Wow, they really looked after me. And it's something as simple as putting a bulb in the car. I know sometimes now we have to remove half the car to replace a bulb, but on certain cars we don't. And then finally, where you guys come in is that digital integration. As we use your systems for the training side of it. So, a technician could actually look at the part and then expand through to it and actually look, well, where does that bolt go? Where does that go? Was always a problem, within Lotus, because a lot of our previous to me joining many years ago, everything was paper based, and having to fix our internal structure into CAD to be able to then foster integration with products like yourself from Partful. So there needs to be whether it's dealer management systems, whether it's parts ordering processes, visual health checks. There's so many different systems, so many good systems, some not so good, but what we miss is that integration. And I think if we are to become slick at what we do, and we are interested in looking after the customer, then that is something we really need to look at now in this world where AI is king. You can't escape from it. So I'm sure that will soon venture into the automotive sector soon as well.
That's great. Yeah, I think it's a really good segue into my next question as well about digital platforms. I think we had the opportunity to kind of put some effort into improving Lotus kind of after sales operations, especially the front line as well in terms of parts ordering. From your experience working at Lotus, and I think you alluded to that previously as well, based on your experience, what are the do's and don'ts for setting up an effective after sales process in your opinion?
Well, working with Lotus was insightful. It was enjoyable. A great team and a great bunch of guys, very passionate in what they do, as for the brand and the product. And as you said, we use your system for the training, which again, as we moved into new products, we had the same products for many years, and then with Amira, it was completely different and a new style of car, Electra and Amaya. It was a totally different design concept from the design team. So having your system, as I said, was able to walk through the repair and drill down to, where does this go? How does that come apart? How does that look? How does that feel? And being able to rotate, manipulate, and look at that is so more beneficial than looking at a bit of paper, that I had growing up. You're looking at this bit of paper and you're looking at the car going, well, this drawing doesn't look like anything like this car does. So moving into products like yourself was really good, and I'm sure benefits the technicians all over the world. So from a do's and don'ts point of view, I would say in the way of what we should be doing is streamlining after sales processes. We need to optimize technician productivity and repair accuracy. Again, this is where your system helped us. So it's fixing the car right first time, and being able to do that, identify the parts, order the parts, and deliver the repair in a quick and efficient manner. Again, invest in training across all levels. The cars are changing by the month. Tesla will become more of a software company than a car producer moving forward. The software side of Tesla automobiles or whatever will become larger, I feel, than the actual money, than revenue that's produced from making cars. So we need to keep training our staff. That's front and back of house and technicians, So we need to work with these people so that they can understand what's going on and how best to deal with it. Digital tools, as you said, we looked at doing things with a GoPro and videoing it. We've done that in the past to try and help dealers with a repair that had to be done. So again, using AI, using more digital approaches, you're taking that information direct to the technician, and whether that's smart glasses or whatever, they can have what they're supposed to be doing right in front of their eyes now, without having to refer back to a piece of paper or a laptop. So I'm sure that will come very quickly, and they'll be using AI. Some manufacturer will start to train AI to work diagnostically, and to look at the car and go, yes, I found this fault code, and I feel that based on the data, you need to look at this. So you'll start to have that artificial intelligence, I think, working with the OEM and the retailers to actually fix cars, which will be very good, I think, but also very scary for us old people that didn't see a computer until we were in our 20s. What's the don'ts? What shouldn't we do when we're looking at a project? Again, don't ignore warranty protocols. It can become complacent. It can become problematic. It can become very costly for everybody. It's a partnership. Need to make sure that we're working together to deliver what's right for the customer. It is about fixing the customer and fixing their cars. As I alluded to earlier, don't ignore the customer feedback. Listen to what they're selling us. They are the people that drive our products, our cars every day and interact with them. They are the user interface of our products, and we need to do that. And from a parts point of view, don't dismiss sort of predictive analytics. Look at your KPIs, set certain KPIs, look at your stock movement, look at your return on your investments. Are we doing things right? Are we doing things smarter? We produce a wealth of data and analysis, and it's there. It won't always tell you what's wrong, but what it will do is tell you where to look. And if we look, we can then tweak, adjust, fix, and move the business forward.
Yeah, I feel like all of the things that you've just shared there, for me and Sam, we've had so many conversations with a lot of our guests on the podcast around data management as well, and I guess you can also relate to that during your time at Lotus, Tony. A lot of the kind of more established OEMs tend to start with paper-based kind of data design first, and then throughout the decades, and especially right now, they're trying to transition and migrate into more of a digital database or platforms, or using tools and transform their data in order to have everything centralized and being able to share more efficiently and effectively internally, and also use their data in order to help with the after sales and through life support. But I think the struggles are real in terms of migrating that data, because decades of paper-based data are now kind of scattered everywhere, and it's difficult to trace back, version histories and all of that. What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like that's probably the first obstacle that I feel like the OEMs need to tackle before they think about adopting tools, and new platforms and new ways of working moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. One of my colleagues, Neil, started out in Lotus 30 odd years ago, actually as one of the technical drawers for these parts catalogues. And, he would quite talk about this great big printer in the corner and his typewriter, and he would actually type out the part numbers and the description and everything, and he would look at the books and go, oh, I did this one, So yeah, Lotus had a wealth of knowledge, 75 years worth of drawings, data, evolution of the products throughout its life schedule. And that's where we struggled when we went to electronic parts catalog, was taking that part from a picture into a drawing, and then creating a hyperlink, and again, VIN breaks and things like that. So there needs to be resources within the OEM that sees the benefit of software like yourself, and help to transpose that previous information into a more manageable environment, I suppose, that you can then manipulate that data and represent it in a way that makes it easier for the parts guys, makes it easier for the technicians, the training department. So it's great as we move forward with CAD and everything, it becomes easier, but we still need to look at what we've done in the past and ensure that we can support those products. And, it's down to the OEM to be able to give that kind of information to you guys to be able to support us, the network, and the customers at the end of the day, because this is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I feel like the story you just told about Neil with the typewriter typing out all the part numbers, which was it like 20, 30 years ago now? And
30 years ago, yeah.
yeah, technology has changed. Like, we're doing it now on computer, but the way of doing it hasn't changed. Like, Sam told us the story the other day. Sam and Carl actually told us that most technical writers and technical documentation writers are still doing it, but on computer with Excel spreadsheets. Isn't right, Sam?
Totally, yeah. We were reminiscing of when we worked together, Carl and myself, and we had a couple of technical authors, and they were just pulling together these humongous spreadsheets, aligning it to sort of PDF exports that they were getting from whatever CAD systems that they were using. And we had, for this one particular contract, we had a couple of guys for maybe 2 or 3 months just constantly like churning through parts database. I mean, it just isn't the job for me, unfortunately. They seem to love it, but that is not where my brain. That's not how my brain works. And yeah, that was their job for months at a time. It's a big task. It's a challenging task. And then you think, then you get to the end point and you finish it prior to delivery, and then you then start delivering vehicles. In this case, it was vehicles. And then what happens when something goes wrong? What happens when you want to change something in that parts catalog? But you've already released 1,000 copies of that parts catalog, around the world. How do you then go back and notify everybody that, your air filters have changed part number? How do you do that? And that, these were the challenges that we used to wrestle with on a daily basis. But I'd like to go back to one of the points Tony mentioned about the AI. And it's interesting, where AI and how AI is going to start to affect and impact on through life support and after sales. And one of the challenges AI has with after sales is the data. AI is only as good as the data that it can ingest. And because after sales and equipment support has been so analog, going to the point you made, Tanya, as well, it's been such an analog industry for so long, actually getting the data to input to build the AI models is going to be challenging. And, we talk about Partful, how, we capture data at the point of change because we're digitizing this after sales through life support ecosystem now. So, it's certainly well within our roadmap, and something that we're considering on the horizon for ourselves is now we're able to capture data at the point of change. This vast amount of data that we're going to be able to capture on behalf of the OEMs that we're working with, we can now start to populate these AI models, and we can do, predictive maintenance has been the holy grail for everybody for years. People have talked about this concept of, your car telling you when it needs a service, not based on a statutory 10,000 or 20,000 miles or 2 years, but actually when the car is starting to feel a little bit poorly and it says, hey guys, can someone have a look at me? I'm not feeling too great. That is the holy grail, and it's only enabled through digitization. And, these are the sort of exciting opportunities that we're staring down the barrel at now, which is, super exciting.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part that I like about it. And as I said, I'm not a computer guy. Being able to populate that and create something that is like that mentor. Nobody sometimes likes to ask a question. Your GM has asked you, why is your parts per hour sold gone down? and being able to have something sat at the side of you that says, based on this set of accounts, where do you feel I've gone wrong? And building confidence so that they can then go back within their operation and fix it themselves will become key moving forward as older people like myself retire off, and that commerciality starts of the old pain disappears.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of, my brain is now stuck on the 2D PDF thing now. And however long that takes technical authors to produce, in Sam's case, it's months on end. In Neil's cases was, even though 30 years ago, that the process hasn't changed and it's still the same, the 2D line drawings and everything else. And it gets outdated as soon as it's produced, and with the part number change or the design change, you can't really make updates as quickly and as efficiently and as kind of cost effective as you would like to, which is why Partful is working on our 3D EPC system. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on 3D interactive technology for after sales, especially for OEM after sales, Tony, because like in your position, you've worked with PDFs, paper-based, analog, 2D line drawings as well, and you've seen our system. We'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
You see it in sci-fi movies as I was growing up, holograms and walking through things and looking at pictures. And as I said earlier, looking at a line drawing, it's very comprehensive. Don't get me wrong; the guys that do it are far more intelligent than I am, and they do a great job. I was in awe with our technical illustrators within Aftersales while I was at Lotus, and the time that they would take in manipulating certain drawings to be able to produce it for the parts catalogs, was amazing. So I mean, the 3D technology is, as said, to be able to expand, contract, rotate, move. It's a bit like Minority Report, really, isn't it? Being able to move this object around and open it and look at it and go, right, this is the part that I need. So being able to drill down for the parts guy, no, it's this bit. Does this part come separately? No, it's part of the bearing or it's part of the hub. So being able to expand and manipulate and move something around so you can see exactly how that part fits, works, situates within it, can only make the industry better and the repairs easier and our customers more happy.
Yeah. For me, for someone who's the furthest away from an engineering background, I've never seen a 2D line drawing. I've got an e-bike and I've got a camera, which I've been through, problems with breaking down, parts breaking, and trying to find replacement parts. For a laywoman like me, I feel like I would be so much happier if I could just go on the Sony's website, being able to go to the Sony parts store, parts catalog, and it being a 3D interactive exploded view, being able to find the right part I need and buy it straight from Sony, even if it's 10 quid or 20 quid more expensive than I would be able to get on eBay. And I feel like that really opens up, like, lower the barriers to entry for most end users and dealers and technicians as well. But it also open up the whole world of like making repair mainstream. So it's good for the OEM brands as well. And being able to do that, just thinking about like the comparison, because what we're trying to do is with our 2.0 system is that will enable the OEM technical authors and design engineers to create a 3D exploded parts catalog in hours. So basically, they've got their CAD, they've got their BOM, they ingest it in, being able to manipulate that model and the BOMs, reflect the right data, and that basically is processed within minutes. And compared to the kind of the old world of like paper-based 2D line drawings, like analog world of taking months in order to create something like that. I feel like we've really trying to kind of revolutionize and transform this industry for the better. So we'd like to hear, like, if you have any advice for the OEMs who want to adopt this technology, especially more forward-thinking OEMs who have their design engineers and technical authors working on their models constantly. What's your advice for them to help them better adopt and make use of this kind of technology like Partful?
As Sam alluded to earlier, especially when you're bringing new products to market, no sooner have you finished the part catalogue and you're getting it out to your network, there's been a supersession, or there's been a change of supplier, or there's been a change in the part, the testing structure. There's many different ways, that create a different on the part number. Different supplier, different materials, different standards. So things are constantly evolving, and that, from an OEM point of view, is really difficult. So working, with someone like yourself that could work from an early point with that CAD data. So as the BOM, if you was talking about, service bill of materials, starts to be created for us in after sales, we can keep building that and adjusting it. So as the engineers change and make things better, we can react quicker, so that the data is always key, is always up to date. There's nothing worse than you order a part, it gets delivered, and then technical say, oh no, what you need is this, because they're aware of something that maybe the parts guys weren't, or the technical illustrators weren't. So it is difficult. The only things I can say is, when you're looking at things like this, have a small pilot program, feedback from all areas, from the parts guy that's looking at the part in the dealership, through the parts manager, through the service advisors, the technicians, the parts guys that are picking and packing and moving these parts to the retailers. We can all have great ideas, and I've had lots in my life, but until you get it into a real world, sometimes that complete great idea doesn't actually work at ground level. So we need to be, more interactive with our end users as well as the suppliers on mapping out what we want, how we want it to do it, and then growing that system and working with it. And as I said, as the evolution of the motor trade, the automotive repair sector grows at an alarming rate, we need to be ready for that, because new products are coming on stream, changes, different technology. It's something we need to look at as a team, all the way through, from the user right the way to the supplier, through to the engineers, on how we can best produce that and keep it relevant and up to date.
That's great. Thanks, Tony. And just to echo Tony's words, starting with the pilot program, we actually going out with our beta for our 2.0 platform. We have got 14 beta signups already, so there's not many slots left. So feel free to don't miss out. Go and check us out. Search for Partful Beta 2.0 or go on partful.io to find out more information about our beta program. But thank you, Tony. And I think we have one last question for you. In case any OEMs want to work with you, how would they contact you?
Best, my email address. So it's tony@autoinsightsolutions.co.uk. Straight to my mobile phone. It's with me 24 hours a day, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Or search me out on LinkedIn. As you said, you've checked out my credentials and what I've been involved in the past. So if you have a 5-minute read, then you can do that. Here to try and work with people to improve operations, to find a way to fix the customer as well as fixing the car, and to help move forward into this brave new world of BEV and hybrid and everything that we're having to deal with now.
Thank you, Tony. So yeah, do check Tony out and Auto Insights as well and their services. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed the conversation. I personally really enjoyed the conversation. What about you, Sam?
Yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, no, it was really good. I don't know. I think the thought of a 130 bay subterranean garage in Kuwait, my mind's still buzzing about how that worked, to be honest. But yeah, no, it was really good having you on, Tony. I really enjoyed that. It was, hearing those good stories and your experience, hugely valuable to lots of people who are aspiring to be in your position. So yeah, I really appreciate your time.
I hope so, and I'm glad to be supporting you guys. The product is great. It's evolution. It is taking it forward, and it is dealing with pain that retailers and OEMs have, and taking that away, I'm sure, can only benefit the customer, as I said. So, good luck with 2.0, and I'm sure I'll be watching it from a distance and seeing what's going on.
Great stuff. Appreciate that.
Thank you.